Welcome to Work Made Easy, where we explore the transformative power of simplicity in driving positive action and unlocking your fullest potential.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Work Made Easy, where we explore how to make workplace experiences relatable and frictionless. I'm your host, Parthajeet, or Partha as most people call me, and today we have a special guest who's redefining the future of work, Izabel Barros. Izabel is a senior associate at AWA and a change management expert who has helped organizations like Microsoft, ABB, Boeing, and I think even the city of Rome transform their workplaces. She is passionate about creating adaptable work cultures and seamless employee experiences, as far as I know. And I'm really looking forward to diving into her insights on activity-based working and the future of hybrid workplaces. Welcome to the show, Izabel. It's fantastic to have you here.
Hi, Partha. It's great to have the opportunity to talk to you and be part of this great project of your podcast. I love it.
Thank you. It's just a passion project, Izabel. Thanks for saying that, too. Now, although you're in Brazil and I'm in India, and our cultures are so very different, but yet so similar, actually, and especially on how technology is reshaping the way we work, right? The world is moving towards, I think, more connected, more digital workplaces, but at the same time, organizations are still searching for that one perfect solution for everyone. So let's test that idea, Izabel. What if every workplace worldwide had to adapt the same dress code? Do you think that would create a sense of unity, or would we all just be equally uncomfortable? What do you think?
I think that would be awful. We would lose all our cultural references in our daily lives, and we would become just automatons like robots, everybody looking the same. And I think that the beauty of culture is that we're different. And when we find our similarities, we can be really united. And even in our differences, when we can acknowledge the differences and really leave a little bit of what we are different at, is wonderful. I think just by knowing other cultures, you understand the concept of different, not better, not worse. We're just different, and that's wonderful. Could you imagine a world filled with Parthas everywhere, or a world filled with Izabels? That would be terrible. So
I
no,
do not
we
want to imagine that
very
world.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense, Isabel. I know I spoke about a few names of clients that you've worked with. Those are some big names you've worked with. And that must be both exciting and quite challenging, I'm sure. So what's been your most memorable project so far, Isabel?
Oh, to say just one, it would be hard. But something that's really deep ingrained in my heart was the beauty of the project we did with the city of Rome way back when, because not only for the challenges of being in several different places, but those places were historical places, beautiful places, and they needed to optimize their real estate and the way they were growing and using those spaces. So that was amazing to understand how a historical city still could work with an administration that was looking forward into the future and being able to adapt that. That's in one way. One hand was a fabulous one. Another project that was great in terms of the culture and how it would play out was in the opposite of the tech industry, when we worked with Boeing and a bunch of engineers that some were project engineers, and they were kind of in their own power of the project engineers. And then there was the other tower of projects of the people who were building, the engineers building the airplanes, and they never talked. And we were able to bring them together in a new work environment inside the factory, where they kept those the integrity of their processes, but they were able to communicate, creating places where people could come together and discuss their projects, their needs, the reality of when you implement something. And that was fabulous to see a year or 2 years after how much we could contribute to their the speed of innovation. We could speed up the cycle of building the airplanes. And of course, it was not us doing it, but we could facilitate that to happen because we understood their local needs and the internal culture. That's totally different if you go to a law firm or to a bank. So that's, I think, is the beauty of what we do, being able to understand each client as this independent unit that works in different ways, but somehow we can understand their culture and build something that works for them.
That's fascinating. The fact that how you build your workstations can actually have an impact on how fast you can build airplanes is
Yes.
wow. That's something fascinating. I mean, I believe in that, and I'd like to know a little more about that. I mean, I think Boeing, not only Boeing, but I think every organization wants to create a great workplace experience, right? But like you mentioned, there were engineers and there were other kinds of people. A great experience really means different things to different sets of people. So how do you, as a consultant, kind of guide organizations to define what actually works best for them?
I believe that no matter the size of the organization, I cited two large projects involving many, many people, but you could be 100% workplace and you still have your own issues. So the big thing is to understand first the business the company is in, then to understand where the company is going in the future. What are their business goals for the future? Then understand how they do their work today and how they envision the work to be done in the future, and understanding their internal culture. You can be in the same industry, but still have very different cultures. And for global organizations, that becomes even a bigger challenge because global organizations have the thinking of a global corporate culture, but it really gets the local flavor everywhere. And being able to identify it is what will make a great workplace experience because you will understand what's really meaningful for people. And this is what our business is about people, right? How they leave their homes in the morning, how they get to work, if they leave their homes in the morning these days, or wherever they go to work, because I truly believe that work is really what we do, not where we go to. So our workplace experience happens wherever we are.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with the fact that most of the global organizations that you, and even some of the work that we do with global organizations here in India, they're always looking for this kind of universal workplace solution, which kind of they believe, some of them, I won't say all of them, believe that one size will fit all and everywhere. And I've often seen that, organizations and management struggling with embracing flexibility when you go from one region to another. And I'm sure you've seen that also. What are your thoughts on this, Isabel? Why do organizations struggle with flexibility so much?
Because it's hard. It's not easy. It's much easier to go back to what we were used to. The 9 to 5 model was a great model. It was easy. It was the same everywhere. It didn't matter if you were in a big city where you would spend 3 hours going to or coming from work, or in a small city where you walk to your work. It's 9 to 5, equal everywhere. So the moment you start to talk about flexibility, we start to understand that there's no one size fits all approach. So we need to understand local needs, the people, what works, and even within an organization, there may not be one only flexibility model for everyone. Maybe Department A needs to be at the office every day. Department B needs to be flexible in terms of the time. Department C doesn't even need to be there. And D needs to come to the office 2 days a week. Look how complex all of a sudden we got. And that's hard. People don't like hard work. We like the easy solution. And that's why companies are looking for the easy way out. there will not be a universal model anymore. Maybe in years from now, they will say, you see that crazy woman talking about never having the same model everywhere again, but here we are. We got this wonderful way of doing things everywhere the same way. I don't believe it. I may be wrong. Who knows? Time will tell.
Time will tell, indeed. I mean, I get it that, there's comfort in uniformity, but really, I mean, people work differently, right? I mean, even within the organization, like you said. I think our listeners will be interested to know if you can think of one, say a client, an organization who actually tried a one size fits all approach and maybe it backfired.
The companies we have been working with have been struggling with that one size fits all approach. So it has already backfired to them probably before we came in. So there was some level of understanding of that they needed to see something a little bit different. However, we see a lot of companies being reported these days. I don't know if you have seen the latest Gallup study where exactly they look into flexibility and how it's backfiring everywhere. People are mandating people back to the office X days a week, and people are just not going. And there's no way to push back unless letting go of everyone. And that has people are not doing it because it has a tremendous cost for firing everybody and hiring again. So and they need to find different ways of doing it. So what I've seen is that some, especially after COVID, a lot of organizations try to do a one size fits all. Let's say you come in, there's this new magic of 3 days in the office, 2 days home. That's the new one size fits all. And what we see is not exactly that it backfires, but people just don't comply. People continue doing what makes sense. And if it's not making sense, it's very hard to force fit something. It's like, I like this metaphor of clothes, especially for women that are one size. So you go to that store. I am a tall woman. And then you have a short woman to your side. And you have this one dress, beautiful dress, black for the night. And then the two of them try the same dress. You know what happens? It doesn't fit me. It doesn't fit the short one. It was done for a model that doesn't exist. So it's just frustrating. End of the story. I don't buy it. The other person doesn't buy it either. And we just leave the store frustrated. It's the same thing with work. You try it out. It doesn't work. You get frustrated and you try to figure out the next store. So the next job. And that's why we're seeing this movement, especially with the new generations that have zero patience for force feeding something. They just go in, they try it out, doesn't work, next. So different from the older generations that still had this idea of, oh, I'm going into this company for a longer period of time. Maybe not for life, but I'm looking for some stability. So I think that's where it backfires when you start losing talent, and then you need to stop and think about what can you do about it.
I love that metaphor about trying to put on a kind of like a t-shirt or something that does not fit you. But it just reminds me about something else. There are these organizations who kind of like to copy successful workplace models from big tech firms like Google or Apple. I don't know if it's a good strategy. Do you think it's a strategy which can work sometimes, that you kind of take a model which has been successful in some big tech company, and if you're a tech company, well, let me try this out. Maybe this will work. Have you seen this being done?
I've seen it being tried, but seldomly works because you need to have the same kind of culture for it to work. So let's look into Google, for example. Google has this idea of big campus where everybody comes in and you pretty much leave the campus. So people who are there have everything for them during the workday and even after work hours. But that's the corporate culture. So when you hire someone for that organization, they're coming in for that sort of work experience. So they enjoy it. If you're coming from for another thing, it will not work. Let's say that you try to get that same model into a tech company that's a small company that cannot offer you all the perks that a big one can offer you, and you try to install the same thing, it's not going to work. Although you're trying to create that model, you don't have the same company culture or even the affordability to do it. So I think we can learn from other models. We can see what works. And sometimes we just mix a little bit of one model with another model, try it out. And I think that's the key word. Maybe you're not going to find the right solution the first time. You need to try it and be open to learn from your experience. So maybe no. I would say surely you will need to adjust it to your reality. Even within the same organization, if you go to a different city in the same country, it may not work the same way. So adjustments should be expected, and we need to learn from our experiences. Having this package that works perfectly for everyone all the time, not sure we can do it, especially with the work experience when people are involved.
Right.
It's very hard to make it work.
Yeah, and one of the things that I have seen, like you mentioned, post-COVID, is a lot of these big tech companies fiddling around with words like, of course, activity-based working, hybrid models, zone rooms, focus rooms, phone booths, hot desking. I mean, there's a lot of workplace jargon out there, right? But at the heart of it, if you really think about it, it's really about choice, right? So a lot of choice is being given to people, because when you come into the workplace, and you do a variety of things, and you need to find the right kind of place for so that you can bring in your 100% to the workplace while utilizing that space. Have you, in your experience, found that employees naturally embrace such choice given to them, or does it take a little bit of convincing?
Well, depends on what you mean by choice. So I don't like to use the word choice alone. I think the focus of the work experience should be flexibility, choice, and control. So when you look into the system, the workplace system, where you have people, process, technology, and space, the focus of all solutions in these four legs of the workplace should be flexibility, choice, and control, one complementing the other. Because you may have a wonderful, let's look into an example that would maybe resonate to everyone. Let's say that you have this wonderful environment with many places to work at. You have phone booths, you have meeting rooms, you have your desk, you have alternative work settings everywhere, you have a couch. And then technology comes in and gives everybody a desktop. Will that work? No, there's no flexibility with the technology. So what can you do in a sofa if you cannot take your laptop with you? Wrong technology without flexibility. So people will have no control and cannot choose. So you broke that cadence of flexibility, choice, and control.
Yeah, when you talk about flexibility, we think about different types of teams doing different types of work and the work typologies. Often, I think what is overlooked in some organizations that I've seen is that you have three generations working in the office. Now, the Gen Z has a different set of expectations, the boomers have a different set of expectations. And that's in some cases kind of ignored. I mean, have you worked on a project where generational gaps have really stood out?
Yes, especially when you're looking into organizations that are experiencing growth, especially growth that happen in the last years, let's say in the last 5 years, 6 years, where Gen Y really came into play in the organization. So you have this 4 or 5 generations in the workplace, and they have very different values. They have very different expectations. So it's, I always love to say that it's easier to ask a Gen Y to help a boomer in a technology issue than try to have someone from Gen X explain you anything. They have zero patience for that.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
the contrary, Gen Y is kind of easygoing and goes in and doesn't expect you to know. However, Gen Z, they are they were digitally born practically, and they don't even know a phone with a rotary system. They never seen it, never had to use it. It's kind of, what is this? It's a typewriter. They never seen it. It's like, oh, cool, that's a printer where you type and immediately you have it printed. So when you start to see this kind of reaction, you understand that that generational gap really influences how work is done and gets done. And Gen Z has a much more intense need of guidance than other generations had. I don't know why, what happened with them during their formation or their parents, or but they are much more insecure than other generations. So there's much more hand holding. And going back to this whole flexibility thing, although they want to be flexible and not be in the office, they need a lot of face to face interaction. And maybe we need to understand that face to face for them is what we're doing here. We're just, for the people are just hearing our voices, but we are looking at each other as we do this. You are in India, I'm in Brazil, and that virtual communication becomes a different kind of face-to-face interaction. Maybe we need to learn more how to do it in different ways. It's the future anyway.
It's fine to be flexible. We need to be flexible. It's a future, like you say. But it cannot be easy to actually be fair to all of them, right? I mean, the needle could be pointing towards one group a lot more than the other groups. How do we really maintain fairness, Isabel? I don't know if you have a thought on that.
Yes, I've been thinking about it because we have been having that problem with our clients. The clients need to find ways to be fair with their people. And first of all, I think that we need to put a stake on the ground that flexibility is not, in my head, is not about 100% working remotely. Flexibility is really about choosing what's the best for your work. The second thing is that I don't believe that the office is going to go away. I just think it's going to take a different flavor, a different setup. And the third thing is that I believe that we as humans, we are social animals. So we need to be together. We need to look in the eye. We need to gossip a little bit, to know
That's
how we
therapy,
live.
right?
Yes, there's a little bit of therapy there. So I've been, that said, I've been working flexibly since 2003 when I moved from the US. I used to work for a large organization in the US, and I moved to Brazil for family reasons. And I was part of a project where we were investigating the depth and breadth of the future of work when we had more technology to work with. And I have to tell you, I haven't been on a 9 to 5 job since then in the office, but I really love when I have the opportunity to balance that experience of being flexible, being away from the office and being at the office, be it at my own organization or maybe at the client location. It's really interesting how much you get to know not only people, but understand the culture the subtleness of the gestures. We spoke earlier about what if we have one only dress code, right? We would lose
Yeah.
so much. When we go to the office, we see how people dress, how they express themselves, how much they do it, how much they don't. And I think that this is how we need to understand that the business is going towards that direction. In terms of the fairness, what's happened today is that if we look into being fair with people, managers in general, if they are evaluating someone, they have not been trained to evaluate someone that they don't look in the eye every day. We haven't yet got a generation of managers that are used to flexibility and used to understand that, oh, Partha really works remote and he does great work and he is worth of a promotion. Or this other guy who's here every day that I look in the eye doesn't have the same qualification as Partha. We haven't been trained for that. And managers are lost. So leadership wants to go in one direction, staff is going in another direction, and then we have that cheese in the middle of the sandwich being kind of pressed over by leadership and under by staff to do something fair, but they just don't know. So we need to find ways so that managers learn. I'm trying to avoid the teaching word here because I don't think we are going to have anyone teaching that, but we need to have the ability to learn from experience for this fairness to become more of a practice.
No, I
We've
think there's
seen
a bit of teaching there, Isabel, in the sense like I do feel that management science was written from an employer's perspective. So managers were always trained to manage people in front of them by sight, all of that if you look at all the management books. But you speak of cheese, well, the cheese just moved and it's become an employee centric world. I think post COVID, more so than before. And we really have to look at employee centricity as a core of, I think, most organizations. I think we're probably at that inflection point, like in consumer marketing, where actually advertisements and the whole game changed from becoming organization centric to customer centric. I think we're going through that revolution when it comes to workplace. I mean, that's my opinion. And
I
this has been
agree with you.
yeah.
Yeah, because, and I think it's a great point to make in terms of the management generation needs to learn how to do it, because I think we are going to have some changes very soon when people who are experiencing flexibility become managers and they understand the hardness of work, both from those who are at the office and those who are remote a day, two,
Right.
3 days a week. And if we look back, it wasn't that different before. For a long time before COVID, we had people who used to travel a lot. Those people were really seen in different ways. They were not seen as, oh, they're traveling and having a good time. They were traveling for work and they were um, recompensed for that. There was some sort of premium for them because people could see that they were leaving their families behind for a long time and they had their performance established in that way. And maybe that's the direction that I've seen in successful organizations that are considered fair is that they're changing their performance reviews to accommodate this new reality. So I agree with you. We are at that tipping point. There soon will be some interesting things that we will look at. Oh, that's how they do it. Maybe we can learn from it.
Yeah, I mean, this has been such an insightful conversation, Isabel. I could go on, but we seem to have hit the sweet spot as far as the length of our podcast episodes are concerned. But before I let you go, Isabel, if since we're talking about employee centricity, if you could give just one piece of advice to organizations trying to create a more flexible and people centric workplace, what would that be?
I believe that it's so simple. It's active listening to your employees at all levels. Simple. Just listen to people, understand their needs, their wants, their personal lives, and you'll be fine. Just understanding who it's like us before we leave in the morning. We always look at the mirror to see if everything's okay. So we get to know ourselves. So people need to understand who they are as organizations and how people behave and what's important for them. Doesn't make any sense to provide people with a ping pong table if nobody plays ping pong. So active listening to people, and people are good in telling you how they're feeling and what's really important to them. Don't ask them what they want. People may want a swimming pool, but ask them what's important to them and listen. Make this a habit of listening every day a little bit. Makes a big difference.
And then listen and act upon it as well.
Yes, yes, of course. And act upon it. Just don't keep it in your brain. Just it's active listening and really pushing action through it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Isabel. I think your insights are truly inspiring, and I'm sure our listeners have gained a ton of valuable takeaways today. Thank you so much for taking our time.
Great conversation. Thank you.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of Work Made Easy. If you found this conversation helpful, do not forget to subscribe and share. And remember, one size does not fit all. So let's keep designing workplaces that actually work for people, like Isabel says. Until next time, stay flexible and stay human.
Work Made Easy. The transformative power of simplicity in driving positive action and unlocking your fullest potential.